you doing, everyone? Happy Friday. Here we are to analyse the round 2 of the trial games team list for this week. We start with a nice game tonight with the Eagles and the Raiders, and the majority of the squads are going to be full strength. So when you're coming into these trial games, just be aware that most of the teams are going to be pretty well similar come round 1. What we see most years is that they are very similar. So when you're making your sides coming into this week, over this weekend, you're looking at a bunch of these guys in starting positions that should be getting that role. Apart from if you're checking in on some injuries, that would be the only reason that would stop that. Someone like Kola in the Manly pack, in the Manly centers, for example. Morgan Harper will be getting that spot back, for example. But the majority of these are definitely guys that are going to be getting that spot come round 1. So be aware of that. Okay, Eagles. He's someone, to have a look at. Obviously, if he's getting that spot now, then maybe he's next in line for that center role, and being cheap is going to be pretty important. But good to see guys like DCE, Trbojevic, how he goes against a slightly better side. If we think he's going to be scoring anywhere near his average, if he's going to come down to earth or not. If Cleary's not playing, you're going to be using Trbojevic as captain. Lots of things to think about there. In the forwards is the interesting one. Bullymore is someone who's in my team currently. If he's getting this edge position to start, it might be 2 to 3, 4 weeks with Schuster being out, and then he'll probably move back to the bench, which he'll be able to score okay anyway. And think about it is if he gets that edge position, scores somewhere in the 40s, for example, makes a bit of cash, and his break even comes down, you'll then be able to get him on the interchange. Even if he's scoring around that 30 mark ish, then he should be able to still make some decent cash for you with that lower break even for a few weeks before you can move him on, for example. That's kind of what you want to look at with some of those guys that are getting a spot in that first couple of games. So, just think of that. Guys you want to look at in the Raiders, obviously Savage with CNK out. They've got a couple of guys out with COVID protocols, so just be aware of that. And obviously that's going to be happening across the year as well. Probably good to get it out of the way now. I think a lot of players have had it already once, so we'll see what happens there if you can get it, another strain or anything like that. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Wyden, with Foggs playing next to him. Will he open up the game, direct him into great spots and get Wyden really good balls so he can score tries himself and set up guys like Tomoko, Kotrick on the left? That'll be very interesting, with Kotrick being a fair bit cheaper than he has been, or than he was last year, for example. That'll be interesting to see. The forward pack for the Raiders is all over the shop. They've got CHN at 13, which, will he play a little bit there? Will he move to the edge? There's just too much going on in this forward pack. For my liking, and guys like Starling are going to be solid off the bench, but we won't really find out too much in terms of minutes based on this game, I don't think, at all. We get Carl Lawton on the bench, so probably his time as a cash cow has passed. He's going to be a bit of a utility off the bench, getting that 40 or so minutes, which will be solid, but not enough for him to make cash at 400k, I don't think. So that's that there. Roosters and Tigers, we still see Lamb at the 1. He's not going to be playing there in round 1 when Teddy comes back. Just be aware of that. Momorowski, the thing we want to watch in this game really is who's going to be kicking goals. Is Kieran going to kick goals from the centre position? If he does, that makes it a bit annoying because you won't really see what's going to happen in round 1, because you'll have Manu in there with Momorowski as well, assuming that Kiri's going to be back and playing. So, that would be annoying if that's the case, but we'll see what happens. Momorowski, to see how he plays in general, will be cool. You've got Kevin Aguama, who's a little bit too expensive, I'd say, on that wing at this point, and Manu playing in the 6. Walker in the 7 role. I just don't think you're going to see exactly what you need to see out of him. I really would have been nice to see Kiri next to him to see how they play together, but he's going to be obviously in control a lot with the kicking game and stuff. So again, don't get too excited, because he should do more in this game than he should in round 1. Just be aware of that. Verrills is in there, number 9. Should get decent minutes, right? But when you've got, first game we have Connor Watson's out, for example. Verrills is also out, so not too much to think about. But he's someone along the way that if he ends up getting big minutes in the hooking position, he could slowly start to improve back to his form from a few years ago. Tupanua is in there. He again solid, and it's interesting to see how Bradley's going to play as well. Always fun to watch him play. Guys on the Tigers side, Dane Laurie. It'd be nice to see him if he can step up. It'd be nice to see Gildart again, but I'm not too high on him. Nice to see what Hastings and Brooks combination looks like. We'll talk a little bit more after the fact as to how they go together, and if Hastings becomes an option or not. Stefano with him, obviously didn't have a great game last week, but it'd be nice to see him improve off that. And if he does, I think he'll make it into a lot of people's teams for sure. And Kelma Tuolagi, as well gets his opportunity. Will he get that over Garner? This is probably one of the only ones in all of the team list that will be like, ooh, who's going to get that spot? And we'll find out come team list Tuesday. But he's just over 300k and played well last week, and will be nice to see him play. Should probably get an opportunity at some point across the season. So if it's not round one, it might be a little bit later we get an opportunity to pop him in our side. So that's that with that team there in that game. So Warriors and Titans comes next. Lots of fantasy relevant guys. Obviously, Valet in the centers with Rocco Berry. He's a bit cheaper, so if he gets that spot to start the year, then he could be an interesting option for sure. Someone on your emergencies in a team that's going to be okay. It'd be nice to see Sean Johnson and Cody Nicarima in their combination, and then all of the forwards. We've got Eli Katoa is fairly cheap, who, if he gets big minutes, is going to be pretty solid, but very volatile at the same time, and he's only going to get the role for a certain period of time, you'd imagine, before Curran comes back to the 12 role. And Tohu Harris comes back to 13, so keep that in mind. Adam Fanua-Blake is going to be solid as well. It'd be nice to see Ewan Aitken with his proper team around him, like he did the back end of last year, which was good. Guys off the bench, not too much to talk about there. Ash Taylor misses out, which we thought. Okay, Titans, we want to see the combinations now. Brimson, Sexton, Campbell, Aaron Clark, how they're going to go together. Obviously, all the outside backs. We miss out on Greg Marzu. Looks like he's going to be third in line for the Titans. And, it'd be nice to see Fafita again. But both Vermours are someone I'm interested in. Looks like, Kevin Proctor being named in the 19 role hasn't got any game time this preseason. So what does that mean for him? Is he not going to make the 17? If Bo's going to get close to 80 minutes, we heard in TK's podcast with Jamin Jolliffe the other day that he's the fittest in the club. So if he can get that role, I'd be, Fafita might be the one that gets the 60 minutes, 65, 70. And Fermor getting the 80, and then just really splitting their big boy forwards. Tino getting 50-odd minutes, Jolliffe, Fodawaker, and who else we got? Jared Wallace, Lasoni. Got a lot of big boppers, right? Herman Essa. They can really just turn them over and play big minutes on the edge. I think is probably a good idea. So if Fermor gets 80, he's going to be volatile, I think, but a young fella that's improving, I think he could make some cash for your side, and he's someone that I'm interested in at this stage. All right, Panthers, Eels. Charlie Staines at the back again. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Robert Jennings. He's super cheap as well. If he gets that wing spot, he's probably going to be close to a must-have. Again, Isaac Tago, but nice to see him with pretty much the full squad. In terms of halves, we have Jerome Luai on that left. So if Tago's on that left, let's see how they play together, which would be cool. With To'o as well. See what that combination looks like. The other one down there is obviously Spencer Leniu. He's getting the starting role this week, but we do have Isaiah Yeo out. We do have Fisher Harris out, so there's no chance that he gets the starting role. But off the bench, is he going to get more minutes coming into this season? He has played 2 years now, and I personally expected him to get more minutes last year, and he didn't. So I'm a little bit skeptical with him. But there's every chance that he can take similar to that Martin role. They've still got also got what's the name? Scott Sorensen as one. Jermaine Hopgood can play some decent minutes as well. Mitch Kenny will be in there at some point. So there's something to think about with Spencer, but have him on your radar at 320 odd K. And on the Eels side, we look at Sean Russell at 260k being a fairly solid option there. And there's talks of him being a good goal kicker, but I don't imagine Mitch Moses loses that. But it'll be nice to see Penasini playing with a full squad, being Dylan Brown, Mitch Moses, and Gutho to help him get some opportunities, because he didn't really get many opportunities to play too well last week in terms of getting early ball, etc. And we see Madison in the 13 role with Brown out to start. So I can see them using this for now, or even Papali'i spending some time in the middle, Madison on that edge. A few different options. Reid Marnie's going to be a decent option, but just be aware of someone like Mitch Rain on the bench come round one. So the bench is probably the one at the moment that we're not super clear on in terms of who's going to be playing on each team's bench and who's made it ahead of another bench forward or whatever. When we're talking about it, we'll look at someone like Max King in a second, who has made the interchange this week. But what does that mean exactly going into round one? Rabbitohs. So we got Taffy. It looks like he's only at the one game now with Latrell getting back. One game of suspension, so he'll be back round two, which will be cool for the Rabbitohs. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up playing, if he ends up on the bench, which is probably a good chance, because I think he deserves to play for sure. But Cody Walker's back. Be interesting to see him and Jackson Paulo and Johnson on the left there again. And what's going to happen with Lockie Ilias? Is he going to be getting a fair bit of ball? Do they go mainly to Walker? Are they going to show all that in the first game to Walker, or are they going to try and spread it out and see what they can do across the park? And then we move to Damian Cook, and we're not going to see too much from him in this game. All we're looking for with Cookie is that there's even no hooker on the bench, for example, which I don't think they will. He should be playing over 70 minutes. Jair is one we want to look at on an edge. Can he play big minutes? We won't find out. I doubt in this in this half of footy or 60 minutes or whatever he's going to play here. But anything over 65, I think he's definitely worth bringing into your side. He's currently in mine. Obviously biased if I'm picking him up, but yeah. Dragons, we got Sloan, just a little bit too expensive. Lomax and Sully, ones that I want to watch how they work with Amon and Hunt. So obviously Hunt being more on the right side, Amon's going to be on the left. So how's Amon's and Sully's combination going to be? And then same with Hunt and Lomax. I really think Hunt's going to have a massive year this year. They've got a pretty solid side. I'm really happy with where they're at currently, especially if Sloan and Sully can really come into their own this year. I think he's going to have a big season, probably a few points undervalued, even though he's valued really high at the moment. I think he's going to be a really consistent scorer. And we really want a big watch on Amon to see if he can play a full 80 minutes of a really good footy. And we should be able to pick him up into our sides at 350k. Bird sits on the edge. There might be a chance that he spends some time in the middle as well. When DeBellin goes off, Bird might come into that 13 role. I think they'll play him in both sections at this stage. Obviously, with Sims out, it's kind of like left a little bit of space on that edge. And just be aware of that throughout the season. The Bird will probably play some time on the edge if, a Sewer, a Sims, if they're out, for example, then he'll probably slot straight into that position, I'd say. Because I do have guys like Maguire to fill in through the middle, so keep that in mind, but they do want Bird in there playing as a ball player with his skills for sure. All right, Cowboys and the Broncos. Hammer, obviously a big watch with the team being close to normal, full strength. Sorry, Dearden and Drinkwater are going to be splitting the time apparently, so that's ideal to see both of them. And Chatty's obviously going to be the complete the guy that's definitely in the side. He's on a lot of money. You bloody hope so. But Val Holmes in the centre is interesting a little bit, but Cotter, Nanai, Lukey, the big guys we want to look at in this game. Have they improved over the off-season? And will their prices be too expensive to bring them in? But Nanai's the cheapest, obviously, and then you got Lukey at 450-ish, Cotter at 500. So let's see what type of roles they're going to play this year and go from there. We've obviously got Tommy Gilbert as well, but he's in the reserves at this point. But they all should get some game time at this stage. And then we'll be interested to see what their bench looks like come round one. Broncos, we got Selwyn Cobbo at 450k. Yes, there's some chat that he might play a couple of games at fullback if Tessie New is not back, but I think they're trying to get Tessie into a decent fullback, and I think playing Cobbo on the wing or in the centres is going to be pretty solid for him just to develop as a player first, and then probably move him into the fullback spot at some point. But at 450k, I just think he's a little bit too expensive when you have some other guys like Hammer who've done it for a little bit longer, a bit more practice. Yes, not in as good a team, and Selwyn's team is a lot better at this stage, but something to keep an eye on. But a lot of people are really off Pereira for some reason. He's always been a really good fantasy player, and for his price, I think he's really cheap, so he should be getting some tries in a decent Broncos side. Just keep in mind that. Walters looks like he's ahead at the moment of guys like Kelly. So if he gets a spot, I'd be popping him in. Same with Corey Pakes. Very interesting to see with him. We'd like to see some decent minutes out of him. If he gets named on Teamless Tuesday, we'll have a deeper dive into him for sure. But he's someone to keep on your radar. Payne Haas, Capewell would be nice to watch as well. And also Harry Hetherington at this stage are all guys that are going to be interesting. And see what kind of minutes Jake Turpin plays at this stage. But Kobe Hetherington, a big watch in terms of he's just busyness. I suppose it's going to be hard to work out how many minutes he's going to get based on this trial game, but if he does get some big minutes here, then maybe that could mean something. But if he doesn't, if they all the big dogs play a half, for example, it's not really going to show you exactly where they're going to be playing come round one. Okay, Storm and the Knights. Big one on the Storm side really is just the Josh King in 13. He should be on the bench for sure. We've got Nelson. It looks like he's going to be back, which is cool. He'll play in that 13 role, I'd imagine. Even if he gets a bench spot at 30 to 35 to 40 minutes, I think he's going to be a solid option for your sides. Other than that, not too much to talk about apart from watching Xavier Coates a little bit more. If he looks really good and he's getting into, if he plays the full game, he gets into a little bit more work. Obviously, that try he scored last week was really cool, just that he just barged through a couple of guys and made them look like turnstiles for sure. With Hughes running the side, does that make it a little bit easier for him? Obviously, having Munster there last week was helpful. So let's see what happens with that this week. And on the other side, Obviously, a few guys to look out. Clune was interesting last week. Let's see what kind of role he plays this week in an 80-minute effort, you'd hope. For him and Clifford, how they mesh together and their fantasy scores will be interesting to see against a decent Storm side, obviously. Guys like Bradman, Best, and Ponga, be nice to watch them, but I'm currently off Ponga a little bit. And Best probably a little bit too expensive for me at this stage. But Randall was another one we're going to look at. How many minutes is he going to play? How's his tackle efficiency? Is he going to be getting out dummy half? Heaps of things to look at with him. And Kurt Mann, I want to watch closely as well. He's currently in my side, and so is Randall. So they're two to think about. Mitch Barnett off the bench is a weird one. Not sure what they're going to do with him. Like, if you're looking at their pack, you got Clemmer and Saifidi. Do you start a Barnett in the front row forwards or the 13? You probably want him in the front row or the edge, right? And is Fitzgibbon ahead of someone like Barnett? What's the question there? I'm not exactly sure. We'll find out come team list. And we should be on to the last game. Monday night, the Sharks and the Bulldogs. This will be a really fun one to watch. We get to see Hines v. Burton. So they're two guys that I'm very interested in at this stage, both in my team currently. We have Kennedy that we'd like to look at. Obviously, Ramian's going to be solid again, but we're moving to their pack and not too much to think about here. We've got Britton Nakora, for example, who's an interesting one, but again, he's been okay for a bunch of years now. Guys like Aaron Shoop, what they're going to be like playing next to Burton or Averillo, depending which side they're going to go off. And then someone like Hetherington, we'll look into a little bit further. The suspension risk, the demerits, the penalties, just too much for me. I think even if he's going to play big minutes, the goal would be, if I'm picking up Tavita Pangai, is that Pangai plays sort of closer to 70 minutes and Hetherington gets like that 55 to 60 role, and they can bring on a couple of guys off the bench. But Max King on that bench there is really cool to see. There are a lot of guys we don't really know too much about on their bench. Like, you got Jackson Torpany, who we know a little bit about. Joe Stimson, but he's not that great of a player. But then you got Bailey Biondi Odo, who's been really solid. Siamana Fanai, and Corey Waddell, all solid players. But if they have that really strong middle forward that runs really hard like Max King, then he'll be in most sides for sure. But that's probably all I wanted to go through in this one, guys. I hope that helped. When you're watching these games on the weekend, they should be all pretty high quality with the majority of teams playing full strength squads there. If you're hanging out for someone like Cleary, there's every chance he just comes back straight into round one. Yes, he hasn't been having too much contact training, but I did read a little article there where he said that it's feeling a lot better than he was at the back end of last year. And remember, he still played the back end of last year and averaged in the mid 80s still. So I wouldn't be worried too much about him. He's just a footy player, right? He'll come in, he'll be fine in contact. If it feels stable to him, that he's going to have no issue tackling, for example, and his skills, he's obviously going to be able to, he's been able to train his skills the whole time. So I don't see him being too rusty. So you have him as one captain, and you have Trbojevic as the other, and we don't know if Tommy could get, as a fullback, you can get off to slow starts, and you could be averaging 40, right? And if he's priced in the low 80s, you're going to lose so much money. And captaincy is a bit of a scary one with him. Obviously, when he was in running and in form last year, it didn't really matter because he was just going and he'd score a bunch of tries or set up a bunch each week. With someone like Cleary, you're going to get the normal base, so that floor should be somewhere around the 50 to 60. Even if he's slightly underdone, I think he's still going to be a better option. If he doesn't make the round one team list, then we're going to blow it all up and have a bit of fun. That'll be cool. But hope you all enjoyed that. Please hit like, subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I think we just hit 4K subscribers, so thank you all so much for all your support. It's actually crazy to think that I have 4,000 people listening into my head talking crap about NRL fantasy, but I really appreciate it. I love it so much. So I hope you guys keep continuing to tune on in. But other than that, guys, I hope you had a good one. See you later.